here we are again, and we're about to jump into the next thing. This is something that I created for today, which I'm very excited to share here. Called the College of Color, a new Bardic college that we're going to be going through in Rayton. And as I was mentioning before, Jeremy, hello, Data. It's always nice to see Data.
When he comes by, I have to hold him up because he's just so cute.
You are contractually obligated to present Data. I mean, it's written in the D&D time contract. It's like Jeremy doesn't even have a choice in this matter.
That Matty Moore cat, but
there it is. As I was saying before, this is a pretty. I definitely made some pretty bold design choices on this, and I'm very interested to see if you look at this and say, Pete, this is going to destroy Dungeons and Dragons. Because I thought,
no, I hope not.
I would rather start with one that has a lot of impact rather than a safer one. Because I had a few that I thought were pretty reasonable, but this is one of the more aggressive ones. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Pardon me, I'm having a little pizza.
Jeremy must consume for a moment. So I'll read you the flavor first.
Yeah, Pete, hit me. I want to hear it. I haven't checked this before.
College of Color. While many bards would share a clever joke or a thoughtful verse to lift the spirits of those around them, followers of the College of Color weave their bardic magic through the visual arts. Adherents of this college believe that while a performance may inspire for a moment, a beautiful piece of artwork can inspire for centuries. Ooh. These bards create wonders through painting and the inherent magic of color, though many are also masterful sculptors, craftsmen, or calligraphers. Some bards of this college hold up in museums and institutions, dedicating themselves to the pursuit of beauty and artistic truth. Others roam the world, creating wherever they go, whether that be a vibrant mural upon the walls of a repressed city or a folded paper flower gifted to a starry-eyed child. So this is the College of Color. It's for you, the Blue Boy. It's also for the Forgotten One on Gob Moss, and also for me because I always felt like bards, there should be a painter bard, which is what I've always wanted to see. Blood Deuce says it's a bard subclass. Nothing you've done could possibly be overpowered. It might even be underpowered, but we'll see. So the first feature you get is color magic. I don't think this will be controversial. When you choose this college at 3rd level, you gain proficiency with painter supplies. These count as a spell casting focus for casting your bard spells.
Garbage. Throw it
out. You can use a paintbrush instead of an instrument to do your magic because that's the flavor of the class, which I would count as a ribbon because there's 3 3rd level features here.
Interesting. There's nothing here that says happy little...
paint a
happy little birds.
Yeah, Raz 651 College of Bob Ross, it could be. Our next feature is called 1,000 Words. At 3rd level, you may spend 1 minute and a use of your bardic inspiration to create a small painted token meant to inspire an ally in a moment of need. When a creature other than you carries that token, they have a bardic inspiration dice that lasts until it is used or until the creature finishes a short or long rest. So instead of the standard form of inspiration, every bard gets some kind of new use for their inspiration at 3rd level. I thought that as a painting, rather than like inspiring in the moment by singing, you could give them a token that they'll look at and will remind them. So it essentially is an increased duration on your bardic inspiration if you choose to use this option.
It doesn't last
in a moment, but it's a very kind of another small feature.
I just love that. I love the idea of that. I can right off the bat see myself playing this subclass and being like, all right, what little thing am I going to paint for them next time? Right?
It sounded fun to me as well. I could picture even like, for example, a bucket using this and just giving someone like a rock and being like,
I painted the cold blue this time. I'm Bucket.
I was also very proud of the name 1,000 Words. And this painted supplies is the 3rd feature here that you get at the beginning. And this is where things are going to get a little funky, and this is where I think the College of Color starts to define what its niche is that this is sort of like a conjuration bard, a bard built around creating things and making them, bringing your paintings to life, essentially is what this bard is going to be doing. So, painted supplies. Also at third level, you gain the ability to give a semblance of reality to your artwork. You may channel your bardic magic into your paintbrush to create a simple inanimate three-dimensional object by painting it in 2 dimensions. As an action, you can cause paint to flow from your painter supplies to form the desired object as you concentrate on its image. The created object must be non-magical and be able to fit within a 5-foot cube. Any inspection reveals the object to be magically conjured. The object dissolves back into paint after 1 hour. You may use this feature a number of times equal to charisma modifier and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So this is very much
ability.
Wait, what'd you say?
This is a very interesting ability.
This is very much referenced a lot to what is the name of the marvelous pigments that is a magic.
Nolzur's marvelous pigments.
Nolzur's marvelous pigments. It's a very much a watered down version of that, which lets you make very simple objects. Because giving people an inspiration to do later didn't really feel to me. The painter supplies, I think, is just a ribbon. And giving people an inspiration to use later didn't really feel to me like enough to define this class. So I added this extra feature on as kind of to begin setting them into their archetype of conjuration.
Yeah, I did have one question for you, Pete, and it's, did you check the Conjuration Wizard when you were doing this?
Indeed, I did. I didn't.
Okay, so you did compare this to Minor Conjuration.
I did. I didn't want it to overlap too much with Minor Conjuration. The Wizards is kind of like, it's both better and not. Minor Conjuration allows you to just, it allows you to just make things instantly. I also don't think it has the caveat that it's just obvious that you conjured them, so there's more of that like swindling aspect.
It does. Visibly magical, radiating dim light out to 5 feet.
Oh, okay, visibly magical. That's the way they chose to do it. I didn't want that, is maybe what I read. Also, the Wizards is at will, and I thought it would be fairer to put this, since it's combined with other things, onto the charisma modifier use case.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering if you had looked at that, because I've noticed yours does not have a weight limit on it.
Oh yeah, I guess my assumption on that was that the thing that you conjure would be, I was almost picturing of it being like a uniform weight, which was maybe in my mind, but maybe that has to be specified. I don't really know what you could do without having, I guess you could make like a really dense anvil. So I guess you'd have to specify that.
Very small elephant, Roz. Yeah.
I think it says
inanimate though.
Yeah, inanimate. So you could make like a very small glass elephant if you wanted and paint that.
Yeah, just a consideration. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail here. It's just,
no.
I think there needs to be more
detail on the weighting there specifically.
Yeah, and maybe if there's a way to differentiate it a little bit more from Minor Conjuration. But it is cool. It is very cool.
Okay.
And I really like it so far. Also, hello, Solar Boy Django. Welcome. We're looking at a bard subclass that does painting.
Indeed. Blood says it also is saying it feels like an artificer subclass to you so far. I don't necessarily see that, but I would love for you to.
I know why. He's saying the layout, right? Because the artificer had a small feature that just said you can use your tools as your thing, and then they had another small kind of ribbon feature, and then
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
I think they're similar in terms of how they're laid out,
mechanically arranged. I get you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So the next feature is the one that's the spicy feature, Jeremy. This is called Impressionism. At 6th level, you are able to imbue your art with bardic magic. When you cast a spell, you may instead choose to paint the spell within a 5-foot square adjacent to you, expending a spell slot as normal. The spell must target a single creature or an area and cannot require concentration. The spell being painted has no immediate effect when cast this way. When a creature comes into contact with the painting, the spell activates. If the spell targets a creature, it targets the creature that caused the spell to activate. If the spell targets an area, the area is centered on that creature. The painted spell remains magical until it is activated or until this feature is used again.
Oh, God.
This is extremely spicy.
So this is what, like magical landmines is what you're making here?
You can paint magic onto it. There's a lot of things I was thinking that you could do with it. You can make magical landmines. You could make like a magical patch of healing on the ground for one of your allies to go over and grab, like put down like a health pack for someone in forms of a painting. There's a lot that you can do with it, but I can't fully wrap my head around all that you could do with this, but it just seemed really cool to me.
Yeah, from a mechanical perspective, and Amy Chibi, please feel free to ask questions about whatever you'd like. We're totally okay with taking little tangents here. But Pete, a question for you about here. I noticed you said your bardic magic and then when you cast a spell. Did you want that to be when you cast a bard spell? Or did you want that to be any spell? Because that could matter for cross-classing purposes. Very minor, like, nitpick there.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that. I think probably a bard spell. Yeah.
That's a later question.
Yeah, I think it's a good change.
Yeah, but if you're going 6 levels in for the cross-class, though, it's almost like... Why not give it to
I don't think it particularly matters. And the first thing that Malkar is pointing out here, plays color college bard and paints fireball all around town. That was the exact thing that I didn't want this to do, which is why it has the feature, if you use this feature a second time, it no longer works. The original thing that you painted, is no longer magical. So you can only ever have one of these painted traps at a time, which I think it has a lot cool that you can do with it. But again, like I was saying, I haven't fully rested with the scope of this, which I think makes it a cool tool. But
yeah, what does it look like? Right? Like, what does it look like when you paint a thunder wave?
I don't know, and that was something that I thought also
is it like
would be
something you could tell is thunder wave, or is it maybe more mysterious? Right?
I pictured that was a thing that was entirely subject to the flavor of the individual. What your painted magic would look like. What piece of artwork do you draw for it? Do you intentionally draw like a picture of a fireball and then make it do lightning damage? Do you draw something that's appropriate, or are you drawing like an innocuous, just weird circle on the ground and then it explodes? Like, there's that's like a flavor point that I thought would be really interesting. And I also pictured, like, flavor-wise as well, I think you could do a lot of cool stuff with how you expect your magic to animate. Does, like, the painting begin to, like, move around and show and, like, create, like, a ripple of thunder as it moves, or does it just disappear and the effect happens? There's, like...
Yeah, Coldspark was asking what happens to the old spell when a new spell is painted. I think the idea, right, is it goes away.
Yeah, the old spell is... If you paint a new spell, then the old spell is wasted.
And Blood Deuce was saying, this ability is extremely limited by the Bard's small spell list.
I think there's a degree of argument for that. I mean, there's always additional magical secrets to consider. So if you're taking the College of Color, you would probably want to choose things that you think are cool with this feature.
I would agree, Molkara, by the way. I think the paint stays in the magic visuals, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool as well. That was one that I didn't picture, but I like that a lot.
I'm seeing this bard just going around. You got your chaotic evil bard just shatter, just spray paint tagging a wall of a building. Teach you to throw me out of your tavern.
I could picture them literally spray painting the word shatter. And then when someone eventually kind of runs into it, they die. They explode.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's going to be a peasant that walks into it, just a commoner, most likely. And a commoner ain't going to survive that. What is it, 3d8 for shatter?
Oh, yeah, no, they're going to die.
Yeah,
something like that.
That's a dead person if you paint this in a town.
Amy Chibi was saying, can two creatures kind of combine together? I have an example that might be interesting. I mean, feel free to share it. I guess you could combine creatures together. That'd probably be its own little homebrew idea, though. And then Solar Boy Django saying, I need help from Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda at D&D time with creating a character. Are we Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda? Ooh.
Maybe.
Help me, Pete. You're my only hope. Stats are getting confusing. Well, Solar Boy, I know if you're having trouble with stats or making a character, we got a friend over at twitch.tv/MattyMorgs. They stream Tuesdays through Saturdays in the evenings. Just around this time, actually, they'll be getting going. And they do a lot of character workshop stuff. So they could be, Maddie Moore is a really great resource for that kind of information. Or you could jump on our, Maddie in the chat right there, boom, boom, boom. Or you could check out our Discord server. You can find links to that at dndtime.stream #Discord. That'll bring you right to our Discord server.
And there's certainly a lot of people there that can help you. We have a new Discord role called the Sages, people that are kind of experienced players that are willing to offer their expertise. So if you hop onto our Discord and at the Sages and ask for some questions, I'm sure you'll be able to find some help there as well.
Mm-hmm. And they can provide a lot more specific assistance than we can do kind of just off the cuff at the moment.
In this moment, yeah.
I imagine high level druid creates a shambling mound, and necromancer creates an undead bone dragon, and oh no. That could be really cool, Chibi. I really like the idea of the dragon it's a skeletal dragon, but it's got like the shambling mound. I actually do that stuff a lot. I ran a long time ago on D&D Time Delves the ogre Howdah, I think from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, but with a bunch of chokers in the back, and I made it into an aberrant monster. Really cool mechanic. The Howdah might be a really cool one to look at. He's in this book. Where is it?
And while you're looking at that, Cold Spark was asking, for AoE spells, would they cast only from the painting, or can a painting trigger a spell somewhere else? As it stands, it would cast only sourced at the point of the painting. So if it's an AoE, it would center around the individual who stepped on the painting. Which I did it that way.
Good man, Solar Boy.
I did it that way for simplicity, because I didn't want people to I didn't want people to be thinking about the intricacies of, you have to say what the range is and where it's going to cast when they step on it, or you decide when it happens. And there's a lot of confusing things I think that it starts to get to there. So this is where I decided to go on that degree of didn't want to add that extra layer of complexity.
Yeah, let's move on to the next feature, because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about Impressionism, but at that point it just comes into a bit of design nuance, right? Of what do you really want it to be? Do you want it to be more like a sigil of some kind, or
like a ward,
or what?
Yeah.
It's
and
a cool
last but
idea.
not least is animation. Being at 14th level, you can bring your paintings to animated life. You can spend 1 minute and paint a large or smaller beast of challenge rating 5 or lower, which comes to life under your control. Roll initiative for the creature, which has its own turn. The creature obeys any verbal commands that you issue to them, no action required by you. If you don't issue any commands to them, they defend themselves from hostile creatures, but otherwise take no actions. This is all taken directly from Conjure Animals. The creature remains animated for 1 hour, or until you stop concentrating on it, as if you were concentrating on a spell, at which point it dissolves back into paint. Once you use this feature, you must finish a long rest before you can use it again. Once a day, you get to paint and make a living thing. This was when I was making the color bard.
Doodle Bob.
Precisely. When I was making the color bard, the thing that I thought that people would most want to do if they were playing a painter bard is make Doodle Bob from SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, but why'd you say Beast then?
Because I thought that Beast was the most versatile option that would allow you to reflavor and make something that you like. I was considering extending it to, for example, when I thought of creature of challenge rating 5 or lower. It started to, there's so many creatures in that range that will start to destroy the game. You have things like, for example, the Medusa, which are going to give you weird petrify effects. And I could also create a stat block for what is going to be made and just have a neutral stat block like some of the newer stuff's been doing. But I just didn't like that for this. I liked the more flexibility of, I want to create a bird, or I want to draw an elephant and use it to siege down this door. Or vice versa, I want to draw an elephant and use it to carry all of our stuff this afternoon because we have a bunch of stuff to transport across town. And this is very much more, in my opinion, of an interaction feature than a major combat feature. You can use it to set up and go into a fight with a cool minion, but more so, it takes a minute to draw them. So it's designed to fly around on an eagle or just do cool stuff out of combat with the beast stat blocks.
I mean, Yeah, I get you. I want to paint a horrible monster though.
Well, I figured that was.
I want to paint my Starry Night like Bodak or something.
What I was picturing for painting your Starry Night Bodak was more of like a reflavor of a beast. I thought you could like reflavor, for example, like a giant, maybe giant ape's too high CR, but reflavor any kind of bipedal beast that would allow you to then fulfill that ideal.
Well, that's for 1 hour. I'm just trying to like consider, right? Because this is level 14, right?
Yeah.
And level 14, you get the Simulacrum spell, which that costs a ton of money. But, that's only beasts or humanoids, so it's kind of similar in its limitations.
Yeah, and I could have made it a humanoid, but a humanoid didn't.
Yeah, and I mean, what do the other bards get at that level, too? I gotta think about
bards, and that's the other thing, is bards are bad. They get a lot of weak stuff at their various things. I was considering finding a way to buff it, because I definitely think it is a little bit on the weak side, but taking the obvious way to buff it, the Blue Boys, like, this is like a cool mount. Yeah, you could absolutely use it in that way. The obvious I lost track of what I was getting at originally. So battle magic is an example. Like the Valor Bard gets, when you use an action to cast a Bard spell, you can make a weapon attack as a bonus action. That's maybe one of the weaker ones. Lore Bard gets...
Yeah, no, this is way better than all the other Bard options.
Yeah.
This is very good. I think this is fair. I think this isn't really too big of a deal. I mean, I would have loved if it could be anything, but I totally get why you did what you did.
I couldn't...
Honestly, it's pretty reasonable. I don't think this is anywhere near an issue at level 14.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a way to make it more powerful. Also, I wanted it to be better because I actually think that Impressionism is weak for a level 6 feature. It's a really interesting tool, but I don't think there's much...
We shift a little bit of the subclass power up rather than down.
Yeah. And there's a lot going on at level 3, so I didn't want to put controversial power at the place where there was a lot of density of just stuff that you're getting.
Now, I noticed, Pete, you have something else on this page.
Oh, yeah. I made a quick cantrip that I liked because I thought if I was a painter bard, I would want to be able to do this. I have a few other fine arts spells that I've been putting together, but I just wanted to throw this here and go over it now because that felt... it just felt so right for the painter bard, which is what I had in mind when I made it.
Paint a mimic.
Paint a mimic would be very powerful. But this is a cantrip that I called Paint, which is an illusion cantrip, casting time of 1 action, a range of 30 feet, and a duration of an hour. You magically change the color of an object or area no larger than 10 feet in any dimension. When you do so, you may add additional details or patterns as intricate as fine handwriting. The spell ends if you cast it again or dismiss it as an action. I think it's very cool and flavorful.
Very neat feature.
It
only lasts for an hour.
Yeah, it lasts for an hour. So I thought cool things that you could... I judge a cantrip that's non-combat on the number of ideas I can have of what you could do with it. And I had a lot of ideas for what I could do with this. Things like drawing a fake door on a wall to like make someone run into it. I could picture you like taking a piece of paper and painting it with like a message that disappears after an hour after you give it to someone. The Blue Boy, you could blind someone with this. Well,
I don't think you could paint on a person. I don't think.
I don't think that's an object or an area. I think maybe not.
I think object or surface is what we want.
Object or surface, yeah. You could not do it on someone, and also changing the color of a thing, I don't think would blind someone. If you made someone's eyes magically a different color, I don't think they would go blind. They would just look weird.
Blue Boy, wait a minute. You don't need a cantrip to throw paint in someone's eyes. You can just do that. That's already a thing you can do in D&D.
And it's
bringing a whole new meaning to face painting.
So this was just a cute
Ooh.
cantrip that I thought a color bard would want to have, and I like it a lot personally.
I really like Blood Deuces. Turn an electrum piece into a platinum piece and trick the merchant. Oh man, I love the conniving, like little color bard walking around, living large, just screwing everybody.
This was one of the exact things that I really liked about this cantrip.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
So yeah, that was a thing that I thought color bards should be able to do. So I made it, and a lot of the times you can buff a class by making a spell. Like if you if there's something like this that there's no room for this in the color bard class, it's not really worthy of being a class mechanic in my opinion. But as a spell, it basically becomes a class mechanic for you. So that's a little addition to this.
Overall, pretty solid. I really like the direction, and I really think there is absolutely a space for this in 5th edition D&D. And that's, I think, by far the most important thing, right?
There's like I said, there's some spicy design in here. In particularly in Impressionism is I think where it gets the strangest. But that kind of stuff, that's what personally, that's what excites me is like I would look at a mechanic like Impressionism and get really nuanced into how am I going to use this? What is it going to be flavored like for me? So there's a lot of cool stuff there.
You know what I think would be really cool? Because I think one of the things for me that would like kind of bring me down just a tad for Impressionism is the fact that you can only have one. I'd really like if you could have a number equal to like your proficiency bonus or your charisma modifier or something like that. Because from like a tactical perspective, that adds so much nuance to the gameplay that no other class has. Being able to pre-place your spells where you want in an area if you know you have time. You won't get it every battle, but
the things that I'm worried about with that are like, because I'd considered having, that's a thing I'd considered, and this is so like, there's nothing quite like this. I mean, there's glyphs that allow you to do this, but there's nothing quite so like easy to use that has this effect in 5e. And I was worried if you could do them all. Like, there's a lot of things you could do with setting up. For example, you could set up a row of healing in your back line that people could just run through, which would be bad.
Be really cool, though.
That's really cool, but I'm afraid of people spending all of their spells and time doing this one thing and then being burnt in a fight because they spent all their time setting up wards and now have no spells left. That's the actual worry. I don't actually see...
Yeah. Could it be a trap, right?
Yeah, I don't want it to be a trap, is the thing I was afraid of. But maybe there's like a point... maybe there's a point where it's not a trap, but you can do it a little bit more. Like if it increased to, a 2 and then a 3 when your, proficiency bonus, when your like bardic inspiration dice increases or something like that. Like there could be.
Or maybe if they had a way that they could like reclaim the spells, right, from the paint.
If they reuse it again, without casting a spell, they get the spell back.
If they could go back over to it and get a spell slot back.
That's something that could be thrown onto it.
Just as a solution to that potential problem.
Yeah.
But either way, very spicy. I'm with you there. Now, Pete, was there anything else we wanted to really cover on this? Because I know we had a third option here that was coming from another friend of ours.
Indeed. No,
this is part of a new segment for the show. We've showed off our stuff, Pete. But what's this next segment about?